Issue 124. Grimer is naturally asked what the delay is for getting the emeralds for the Dracon Empire, and he says he needs to power down some of the circuits before they could remove the emeralds from the Chaos Chamber. Sonic snarks that the island will fall out of the sky if he does that, causing the Purple Soldier to worry about being killed, naturally. Grimer says that he's worked it out, and there'll be enough power in the island's systems to keep it in the sky for a few hours. That's not what I've seen. He could have just said there was plenty of time for them to escape, like here, instead of lying confusingly. Also, how did he figure out the island's systems? He's never there. Then Knuckles' guard robots show up, with Sonic relatively thinking of them as creepy, and Sonic reveals that he's been secretly vibrating at super speed to weaken his shackles. This lets him break past them finally, and just after thinking that the guard robots were a great distraction, he shouts that he's free, which should alert more people to him, and jumps away from the soldier trying to grab him again. As the guard robots start fighting the soldiers, Sonic wonders what he could do that wouldn't get him in another fight when he's a badass super speedy hedgehog. Should be able to win any fight, but whatever, and gets an idea. After Grimer looks away from feeling a draft, which was probably the wind from Sonic rushing around, Sonic steals a green emerald and taunts them about it, and starts to run away while taunting them that they need to catch him first. When a Purple Soldier naturally asks why it wouldn't be enough to settle for 6 emeralds, Grimer says out of nowhere that without the Master Emerald, the rest of the emeralds are useless. Since when? I don't remember that. Did he come to the wrong conclusion? Eggman clearly used the emeralds to turn super, and it was the Grey Emerald, not the Green Master Emerald, that got him back to normal right away. So again, this lore is either Grimer being wrong, or a blatant retcon that's dumb. If you can only use the emeralds when you have a Master Emerald around, then how do you go super in the games? Sonic says to himself while running that he needs to figure out how to get the emeralds back in place before the island would crash. And then he runs into Tails and drops the emerald, snarking, "Well, look who it is! Tails, just when I don't need him." Not being annoyed, Tails meekly apologizes for taking so long to get here, rather than apologizing for not using the gunfire and the tornado to defeat the robot sentinels. And says that he had to land the plane miles away, all while neither of them are getting up and picking up the emerald in the time they're wasting talking to each other. Tails and Sonic are being such idiots in this whole story arc. This idiocy will cost them. Oh no, it doesn't, because Sonic does grab it in the next panel, where the story ends with light flashing behind them. In the next story, after the cops take Hammerhead away, the Lieutenant Cop reluctantly agrees to send the Chaotix into the station so they can all hear Porker explain his retcon. Interesting backstory. Porker explains that when he just earned his university degree, he earned a university degree? But the first time we saw him, he was just another one of those little animals popping out of Badniks, and Sonic called him a kid. Multiple times, I think. And now I'm supposed to believe he's an adult? Did he... Huh? Was that not really him, but some twin brother? Anyways, Hammerhead was his first boss. Now this was before anyone realized that Hammerhead was a criminal. At first things were going well, as we see a panel of him calling Porker an absolute genius and his boy, and telling him that soon, thanks to him, the city will have a brand new, cheap, and clean energy supply. But eventually, Porker had realized the elements used for the energy were too unstable, so one night he broke into Hammerhead's private office rather than warn him about it, potentially be disbelieved, and he learned that he was being tricked into building the most powerful bomb ever. What kind of science-knowing engineer would not immediately know that he's being told to build that? Wouldn't he know enough about chemistry to have figured out the elements were too unstable right away? So he burned all of the work he did for Hammerhead, who made sure everyone would think that he was his right-hand man. So the comic didn't have the guts to actually have Porker be a former villain. The sheriff doesn't believe him about him being innocent, and Porker says it could take months for him to be put to prison. Letitia Paulus take note, it doesn't take just seconds for Sonic to go to trial. That was kind of silly. Then the sheriff asks a cop again to bring in Oscar, and threatens him that he'll never get a promotion if he doesn't let Porker go. Well, that's surprisingly reasonable of him to do. After he tells the cops to stop searching for Oscar in a heartwarming moment, and I wonder why the fuck they were looking for an Oscar instead of Porker always being called Porker in the special zone. Seriously, why did he change his name? Was he that paranoid of being discovered who he really is? Vector compliments the sheriff and the story ends. In the next story, a civilian in Timber Village Zone says there's a big fat lump monster on the loose, as I noticed that Amy's shirt has a broken heart on it now. I wonder what that represents. Remember, she hasn't wasted time flirting with Sonic in a while. Amy's punch to the lump monster is not very effective, and she bounces away from it while saying a line much like Sonic would, and Techno says she'll catch her, which she never does. Amy says from its grunts that the monster's trying to communicate. By sheer ridiculous plot-contrived coincidence, Techno had brought a translator along with her in a world where we've been given no indication that other languages still exist in it in present day, let alone around where she lives. And she can switch it to monster mode as well. How stupid do they think I am? Why can't the monster just speak English to begin with? And the lump monster says that his voice just changed after asking why they're picking on him. Amy calls Techno a genius, and the monster explains that he only showed up to do some shopping and it's not his fault people got scared. He explains that he's a failed experiment of Eggman's. Make me wonder why he spoke a different language than needed translating them. Also, is he going to carry Techno's translator with him wherever he goes so people can understand him? And he was abandoned for not being nasty enough. So he can make a lump monster, but he can't make it evil? He can't control its brain to be evil? In a twist, he's more interested in handicrafts and pressing flowers. And after a mob chases him while blatantly ignoring the fact that the heroes of the story are trying to reason with him, a bridge breaks with all of them on it, and 2 of the following civilians get bounced back to safety by the monster's soft fat. This causes him to be treated well, and one of the civilians actually admits that they're ashamed of their behavior towards him for looking like a monster. The monster is told that he deserves a better name by a civilian, and he gives himself the name Keanu out of nowhere, with one of the civilians shaking his hand and pushing his luck by joking that he could be a bouncy castle. In the next story, whose name I misread as Fanfiction, we see Sonic doing one of his usual autograph sessions for the people of Metropolis. Also, how does he schedule these? Does he do it like celebrities do? I guess so. I guess he leaves the scheduling to somebody else, because I couldn't imagine him doing that. And one of the civilians pointlessly says that he's got quite a following in a stilted Captain Obvious line. The other one behind him's line is just as stilted because of course he's next. Sonic says he doesn't like sitting around for too long, making me wonder why he would bother signing all these autographs in the first place then, and wonders if he should sign the autographs super fast. Won't that burn the paper or rip it? And I laughed a little because that's exactly what happens next. It burns the paper and rips it. And how was this the first time he ever came up with this idea? Out of nowhere, an evil human with a face like a frog reveals himself to be a villain in his thoughts right away because of Fox's subtlety and gives Sonic his own pen and pad, lying that they're specially made to resist such problems. Sonic is told that he's become the ultimate item of his pointless collection, and that when the pen and pad made contact, they trapped Sonic within an energy bubble. Yeah, and the panel's so showing that. Oh, now they're showing it. Some civilians actually show initiative trying to save him, but obviously they get electrocuted by running into the energy shield. Sonic asks the collector what he even intends to do with him, and is told he might use him as a paperweight. That's so stupid of him to do. Shouldn't he know he's a useful hero? At least the villain explains that his enemies always mock him, so that's why he turned evil. It's a lame excuse, but it's better than nothing. Out of nowhere once again, his main rival shows up by sheer coincidence and challenges him to a trivia quiz with a deal to let Sonic go if he loses. Why would he trust him to follow through with that end of the bargain? The trivia is a complete waste of time, and Sonic pushes the bubble from the solid inside, threatening to electrocute him, forcing him to cut the power. And since the solid bubble conveniently goes away with the electricity, Sonic knocks him out because he's free. You know, we could have seen him punch him in the face. It's perfectly fine to show that. And then the story ends with the trivia guy being asked for autographs, even though his help was completely worthless. The civilians might as well ask for autographs from the people who got themselves electrocuted. Then the villain reveals that he's honored to have been hit with a spin attack, and not punched like I had hoped. Wouldn't that spin attack have cut him? A punch would have made more sense, and been more satisfying to look at. In the first 2 stories by Nitro Kitchen, the first story has it randomly be revealed out of nowhere that the other Chaos Emeralds are useless without the Master Emerald, which wasn't even the original one. Knuckles replaced it. That absurd retcon, that I'm sure is contradicted by previous issues, is why the soldiers want to chase Sonic for taking just one of the emeralds. Why couldn't they just say that this emerald is way more powerful than the other one, so they're better off looking for it? The second story has Porker reveal that he was Oscar. It's never explained why he was known by a different name back then, by the way, and he explains that the comic didn't have the guts to actually make him a criminal past redeem himself. Instead, he was just tricked into building a bomb for Hammerhead. Yeah, a science guy didn't know that he was building that. And suddenly he was always an adult now, and not younger than Sonic. That's what really confuses me. Fortunately, the sheriff goes easy on him since he's clearly a good person now, at least, and lets him go and drops the search for him. That was convenient. The last 2 stories are by Lou Stringer, and the third one has the twist where the lump monster was just an innocent failed experiment of Eggman who's a perfectly nice person. Somehow. He must have been made very recently since he didn't starve to death or dehydrate from everyone running for the hills whenever they saw him, and they're just talking about him now. Because he was sent here from Flicky's Island. And when he saves people because they bounce off him in a Chekhov's gun, he's treated well finally by the village. That's probably my favorite of the stories. My least favorite is the last one, where randomly out of nowhere, someone wants to collect Sonic with a force field generator. And after some trivia quiz padding that amounts to nothing, Sonic finally gets the idea to push the electrified shield towards him and get him to free him. This plot made no sense. No one should want to try to collect a hero of the world when he's not even a Robotnik supporter, just some guy turned bitter from bullying.